Imagine staring down an impossible choice. Doing the objective right thing requires you to betray the only person who ever showed you kindness. Thousands of years ago, the ancient Indian epic, the Mahabharata, built its entire climax around this exact nightmare. On one side of the battlefield of Kurukshetra, we have the prince Arjuna. He looks across the enemy lines and completely freezes. The people he is supposed to kill are his own cousins, teachers, and elders. On the other side stands Karna. He is fiercely noble, endlessly generous, and acutely aware that the king he is fighting to protect is a cruel tyrant. The battlefield is actually a testing ground for two competing ethical systems. Arjuna is driven by Dharma, a universal, objective duty. Karna is driven by Mitratva, a deep, relational loyalty to his funds. When the arrows start flying, it's a violent collision of these two moral frameworks. And the exact same conflict is still playing out in our own lives today. Standing in his chariot, Arjuna drops his weapons. He decides that maintaining the peace of his family is more important than winning a war, even a justified one. But his guide, Krishna, forces him to look at the situation differently. He helps Arjuna cognitively reframe the conflict, zooming out from a messy family dispute to a necessary action for cosmic order. Krishna explains Svadharma, Arjuna's duty as a warrior. He must protect the oppressed and uphold justice, even against his own family. To do this without guilt, he practices cognitive renunciation, carrying out his violent duty while detaching from personal hatred or emotional reward. By following this path, Arjuna guarantees that the rules of justice survive, but it comes at a massive cost. He has to sever his emotional attachments and elevate cold, hard principles over the people he loves. While Arjuna relies on divine rules to guide him, Karna is driven entirely by human psychology. Karna's backstory is defined by trauma. He was born with a divine armor, a kavach and kundal, that made him invincible. But his mother abandoned him as a baby to avoid a scandal, and society relentlessly humiliated him for growing up in a lower caste. Right when the world rejected him, a prince named Duryodhana stepped in. Duryodhana gave Karna a kingdom, he gave him deep respect and a place to belong. The catch? Duryodhana is a deeply insecure and tyrannical narcissist. Starved for validation, Karna develops a toxic codependency. He bonds so tightly to the man who saved him that it borders on Stockholm Syndrome. Because his self-esteem is so incredibly low, Karna begins to view his very existence as a debt that he owes entirely to his savior. This rigid code of gratitude demands a horrific sacrifice. When a disguised enemy asks for his divine armor as charity, Karna gives it away, sealing his own doom to uphold his honor. The real tragedy is that Karna isn't blind. He knows Duryodhana's cause is rotten. He actively suppresses his own moral insight to stay loyal. Karna shows us what happens when an intense need for belonging weaponizes our best traits. His gratitude and loyalty, beautiful virtues on their own, are twisted into tools that prop up a tyrant. You probably aren't fighting a war in a chariot, but imagine discovering that your mentor, the boss who took a chance on you and gave you your big break, is quietly committing corporate fraud. If you speak up, you're an Arjuna-type whistleblower. You take a personal hit, betraying a friend to protect the public good. If you stay quiet to repay favors, you're following Karna's path. You honor the relationship, but allow a corrupt system to keep hurting people. In this framework, staying quiet about a wrong is the same as joining in. By shielding a benefactor from the consequences of their actions, your gratitude effectively becomes the engine that keeps a corrupt system running. The epic suggests these two paths must eventually join. True duty requires the human touch of kindness to keep it from becoming cold and destructive. But true loyalty to a friend requires the courage to uphold justice, even when it means correcting that friend. The final lesson of the Mahabharata is that friendship isn't about blind compliance. Sometimes the highest form of loyalty is having the courage to look the person who saved you in the eye and tell them no.